Hello, hello. Sorry I was running a couple minutes late. But I'm here. Hi, Mary. See, Mary, I'm wearing one of your wigs. Hi, Amy. Oh, we have some quick viewers today. Woo! Sorry, I was a couple minutes late. I feel bad. Hope everyone's having a good start to the weekend. It's nice and sunny here. I'll give you a quick sunny update before we start. This is just our backyard, but, well, our neighbors too. But nice and sunny here. Hopefully you all are getting a little bit of sun wherever you are calling from or viewing from. I realized that today is also the that live digital concert where I think I'd heard that like Lady Gaga was not hosting, but she's kind of spearheading it. And it's supposed to benefit like the World Health Organization and first responders, and it's like our modern day Live Aid. So I appreciate you all are wanting to join me right now because that is way more probably excited, and they rehearsed, so less issues. Oh yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say, but anyways, yeah, we're here. We are ready to read chapter 11. We read 10 last time. That was the chapter that talked all about Porter Wagner. If you've ever followed any of Dolly's career, you've heard probably the stories about her first major gig was with Porter Wagner, and they had falling out, so they hated each other. But it was nice to hear Dolly's side version of it, or her version of it, because as she said, there's two parts of every story. So today, and there were no other additional photos, I think, that I didn't show you guys. Yeah, so we're going to just delve right into chapter 11 with Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. Okay. Oh, and I feel like I should always like tell you, the publishing house was HarperCollins, 1994. Yeah, here we go. Okay, as I began to move out on my own, Dawn Warden, and by meaning move out on her own, like when she left Porter Wagner, not her husband or anything, because her husband and her are still married to this day. Okay, when I began to move out on my own, Dawn Warden came to work with me. He still does. As this book is being written, back in the 90s, early 90s, we are celebrating 25 years together. Throughout that time, Dawn has been as solid as a rock, loyal, trustworthy, and constant. I call him Mr. Everything. I can always depend on him, and I'd like to think he can on me. Oh, hi, Esther Shop just joined us. You're just joining us for the start of chapter 11, so you didn't miss anything. A guy named Dawn Warden started to come work with her after she left Porter Wagner. If I were hanging on the edge of a cliff, Dawn Warden is the one person on this earth I would want to be holding on to my hand. Actually, let me amend that. My husband, Carl, is the person I would want holding on to my hand. Dawn Warden is the person I would want on the phone calling for backup. Dawn is not a big man in stature, but he is the tallest man I know. Anybody who knows him, and he knows everybody, looks up to him. At one time, there was even a t-shirt being sold around Nashville that read, "I know Dawn Warden." I feel like I should know Dawn Warden. People are still calling me and asking, how can I get one of those Dawn Warden t-shirts? Sometimes it feels like people are only using me to get to Dawn. Dawn, like Porter, is from Missouri, and had started with him way back in the early days. He played steel guitar as one of the wagon masters and sang the high part on Satisfied Mind, and the song like that, and other songs like that. He knows absolutely everything about the business. A much rarer thing than that is that he's willing to share what he knows. I always get a kick out of seeing young people come to sit at the feet of the master and learn from Dawn. Oh, Ben, welcome. You're catching us at chapter 11, Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. Another great angel that God has brought into my life is Dawn's wife, and I am truly believer I would have met her somewhere else if she had never known Dawn. I know Dawn is awfully glad she does. She is a beautiful Missouri girl who used to be a model, but she's even more beautiful inside. She loves to draw and paint, and has real gift for decorating. She did a lot of the decorating at Dollywood, and she and my brother Bobby have done wonders with my Tennessee mountain home. She even designed the Dolly doll. Hi, Sheila. Yes, it's a rainbow afro wig donated by a friend for this reading. She even designed the Dolly doll that came out in 1975. Anne and Dawn are such treasures to me, and I thank God for them every day. I would have to say that what I am most thankful for is this world. In this world are the wonderful, friendly angels God has blessed me with in every part of the business and personal life. Another person who is a rock of Gibraltar to me. I'm not sure about that word. Gibraltar to me is Mark Kirikoff. We're just going to go with either of those definitions. One of my dearest friends, my production manager, and my personal assistant. He also serves in a production capacity anytime I do TV. I can't imagine life without him. There's Teresa Hughes, who runs my Nashville office and my publishing company. Velvet, Apple Music, and Larry Sieber, who is operations manager and my security supervisor. One big question in my mind in the early days after the Porter split was my relationship with RCA. Porter had insinuated that the label would not be interested in me without him. Since I had burned my bridges with the Monument to some extent, this was a big concern to me. I asked for a conference with RCA in New York and flew up to meet Ken Glancy and Mel Illerman. I went in loaded for bear. I was prepared to do a big sell job. I know I'm not the same without Porter I started in, but I'll be something really special by myself. I had barely begun my sales pitch when I could tell by the faces in the room that what I was saying was taking them by surprise. One of the executives finally spoke up and said, "We're somewhat interested in maintaining a relationship with Porter Wagoner, but we think you're the real star." "Then you still want me?" I beamed. "Yes, we still want you," was the answer. It may have been the biggest relief I had experienced since I found the cow that took me home that night in the mountains. It wasn't just this group of people or this particular record company. To me, it was a confirmation that the world had accepted Dolly Parton as a free and independent entity. Remember, remember if you didn't catch last chapter, Porter Wagoner had convinced her to leave her first little recording studio, Monument Records, and it didn't go over so well. And so she transitioned over to RCA through Porter, and that is why she was worried that when she left the Porter Wagoner show that they would not want to keep her. But it seems like they did. That's great. Okay. I will never forget my first day recording for RCA. Back when I was still with Porter, I had just bought a new car, and was running a little late for my session. I had driven very little in my life and was not that secure about my ability behind the wheel. The man at the driver's license bureau in Nashville had given me my license without even a road test. Wow, that's scary. Presumably because he thought I was cute. I guess I did too, and somehow felt that made me qualified to drive a car. Oh, we've got Lady Fingers joining us. Hi, ladies. Hope you're all doing well. In my rush to get on to the studio that day, I forgot one basic element of driving: braking. I arrived at the old RCA studio on Music Row and plowed right into the side of the building. Oh God, bricks were still falling onto the hood of my car as I walked nonchalantly into a recording session as if nothing had happened. When we took a break a little later, the men went outside to have a cigarette and noticed my car stuck in the wall. They commented on it, but I never did say anything or confess that it was my car. That old studio is now a historic site in Nashville. If you visit there, you can still see where the bricks are a little different in that one particular spot. The way Chet Atkins reacted, I think he knew whose car it was. Chet, if you did, I thank you for never letting on. Chet Atkins has always been a special friend of mine. If you were to come to my house for dinner, it would not be unusual for Chet and his family to be at the table. Like Rory Acup, String Bean, and Minnie Pearl, Chet is just good people. Those other people were other country stars back in the day. You should check him out. String Bean, he's an entertaining person. Oh, there's a wasp. Oh my God, there's a wasp. Oh God. Hold on. Oh God. I have to go for a second. Hold up there. I think it might be the wig. Hold up. I'll be right back. Remember, this is live. We are reading Dolly, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. Give me a second and I'll be right back. I'm going to hide out from this wasp. Just going to hold this book right here so you don't get bored. I think it's gone. I think it's gone. Okay. Oh. Okay. I think we're... Okay. We're back. Sorry. Okay. We've got them trying to mate all over the house. And not mate, but they're trying to make a nest everywhere. Whew. I saw that coming through the camera and it freaked me out. Oh my God. You guys all saw a live Andrew run away from a wasp. Now that was fast moving. Okay. Whew. I told you it's live. Every day something new. Okay. Just gonna take a quick scan, make sure he's gone or she. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. Whew. I need a drink of water. Maybe something stronger. Okay. We come from the same neck of the woods, literally. And we understand each other. I first met Chet when I was very young. I remember meeting him at Shoney's restaurant with Uncle Bill and a group of other music industry people. I had strawberry pie, something Shoney's was known for. There was another restaurant in downtown Nashville called Linebaugh, pronounced Linebaugh. It was a place where I spent a good bit of time while Uncle Bill was working the room and his elbow at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. The latter was not a place for a little girl to hang out. Sometimes I had the strawberry pie at Linebaugh's and had always marveled at the size of the strawberries. This day, at the table with Chet and the others, the waitresses bought my strawberry pie. And I said excitedly, "Just look at these strawberries! They're as big as Linebaugh's." Well, everybody at the table broke into hysterical laughter because they thought I had said, "lion balls." That's funny, actually. Lion balls. If my embarrassment had ended there, it would have been had enough. But it didn't. I was trying to tell a story of the family we were having the feud with back home. They live down the hill from us. Mountain folks always say, "I'm going down to do so-and-so," or "I'm going up to so-and-so's," and I was telling the part where Daddy had gone to the other family's house. Quite innocently, I said, Daddy finally got tired of them picking on us, so he went down on them. The table erupted in shrieks of laughter. I didn't understand, and looked to Uncle Bill for an explanation. He shrugged it off, and said under his breath, "I'll tell you later." Of course, when he told me that to go down on somebody meant to give them a blowjob. God, Dolly Parton, she went for it. Of course, when he told me that to go down on somebody meant to give them a blowjob, I was mortified. Chet Atkins never let me live that down in a jovial way. For years after that, he would ask me, "Has your daddy gone down on anybody lately?" That's funny. Chet is always ready with the joke. So are a lot of people, but one big difference about Chet is that he laughs just as hard if the joke is on him as he does when it's on you. Chet is very ticklish, and I always grab every opportunity to grab him in a sensitive spot or gouge him in the ribs. As this book is being written, we are carrying on a fun joke through the mail. He is suing me for the last time I grabbed his butt. He goes to a lot of trouble to make it look all official and legal, so I do the same thing back. In my last brief, I commented that his suit for sexual harassment should actually be his assessment. I survived the Porter deal and had secured my place as a recording artist on my own. I had gathered wonderful, helpful people about me. I felt great. I felt like my dream was on course. I put together a new band made up mostly of family members and called it the Travelin' Family Band. It included brothers and sisters and a few cousins. I had a great musician and a friend named Bill Rigg, who served up the band's leaders, and found a very talented young man, Richard Dennison, to lead the background singers. The unfortunate part was that I took on the mother role. They played and sang fine, but I stayed in a constant frenzy trying to keep up with my brood. What time did Randy get to bed last night? Whose room was Rachel going into? Are Frida and Floyd drinking in the back of the bus? It was just ridiculous. I don't mean to take anything away from any of my family. They are all very talented, and I love each of them dearly. They are not at all at fault for what happened. I had made a huge mistake. Here I was trying to listen to another voice, trying to move in a new direction, and my falling back into my family was grounding me in the past. Their music is wonderful and pure, and does reflect the truest, deepest part of me, but I was hearing a different drummer. Maybe that was the part that was the mistake. I don't know. I only know that my dear sweet family members were not the people that this particular incarnation of Dolly Parton needed to be on the road with. Perhaps I had drawn them around my security for the realness of their love. This is what made it so painful when I had to tell them the traveling family band was to disband. It was crushing to me too. I've always had dreams of all of us working together in a big-time show business that none even watching the Jacksons could dim. It may happen one day yet. The talent is certainly there. One positive thing that came out of that experience was the relationship between two of the backup singers, my youngest sister Rachel and Richard Dennison. They were young people with very active hormones at the time. We were traveling together. I tried to stay on top of things like keeping them off the top of each other. Little did I know it was the real thing. They are now happily married and are the parents of my beloved niece Hannah. Richard is still with my band. He is a talented performer and a fine person, and I'm proud to have him in my family. At the time of the family band experiment, my career was in an odd state of affairs. Just when I needed him, and an old friend came to the rescue. It was Mac Davis. I had known Mac for some time. Mike Post, a record producer, had once arranged for me to appear on Mac's TV show, and we had kept in touch. He was in Nashville working on recording and was staying at this great little hotel downtown called the Spence Manor. He had heard I had left Porter and invited me down to have breakfast with him. I did, and we talked and talked. I was still going through a lot of heartbreak, and Mac was a really good listener. If you're just joining us, we are reading the 1990s autobiography by Dolly Parton called Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. We read a chapter every other day. So today you are enjoying chapter 11. And you just missed an attack by a wasp and a great on-screen performance of me fleeing the scene of the crime. So you never know what you'll find if you stay on long enough. He was also the one who suggested that I meet with Sandy Gallon. I don't know if he's the right manager for you, Mac said, but if he's not, he'll know it right away, and he'll steer you to someone who is. Mac always booked me and my new band, Gypsy Fever, to open for his shows all that summer. That was a great boost in my solo career. Mac was very big at that time, appearing with him gave me a lot of credibility and exposure. We did some writing together. Mac is one of the best songwriters of all time, bar none. I love his poetry and his sensitivity. You can just tell by talking to him, looking into his eyes, or even listening to one of his songs, that he's a person who feels things very deeply. I can relate to that. He was very kind to me at the time when I really needed it. Mac has remained a friend, and I still love to write songs with him. My solo career was building. I was learning more about business. I was learning more about who I was and what I want that would sell. I was having a pretty good old time being Dolly Parton. What happened next hit me like a pan of cold dishwater thrown in my face. Porter Wagner filed a suit against me for approximately $3 million, claiming he had made me a star and was entitled to a percentage of my career for life. I could have probably won the case in court, but to spare Carl and my family the heartache of a long, bitter court battle would have caused, I agreed to settle out of court for around $1 million. I should note that as a part of the settlement, we both agreed not to make the amount of the suit or settlement public. But since Porter has already done that in his book, I suppose it's okay for me to mention it here. Although I appeared to be a star in the eyes of the public, I did not have $1 million or anything else close to it. Even a millionaire would be hard-pressed to put his hands on $1 million in liquid assets under such circumstances. It is fitting that this is chapter 11. If I had been a shrewd person, perhaps, I would have gone bankrupt and Porter's judgment against me would have been worthless. I have always been a person who paid her debts, even if I didn't feel it was justified. Our settlement was binding and legal, and that, to me, made it most sacred. My ego and self-respect also came into play. If I was going to prove that I could be a star of my own, my pride wouldn't let me admit how crushing a blow this was. I paid the debt. I took everything I had, everything Carl had, everything I could make for years to come, but I paid it. I made up my mind that if he could live with it, I could live without it. I had done all right without it. I suppose Parton has done all right with it. I'm neither his conscience nor his accountant. The major player in my crossover success was Sandy Galen. When I met Sandy, we hit it off instantly. From the time I was a kid singing to chickens over a tin can mic, he was the only person I ever met other than Uncle Bill who wanted me to be a star even more than I did. I'm not saying that is the basis for our friendship, but it certainly gave us a good place to start. The way our relationship started, it's a wonder we gave each other more than a hello and a goodbye. I flew to L.A. for the express purpose of meeting Sandy and checked into the Beverly Hilton. I had spoken with Sandy by phone and he said we would have dinner. I assumed that meant we would go out to dinner. I had no idea what a wealthy man Sandy was. How was I to know he had such a grand home with his own personal chefs and what have you? In my own way, which was even more tasteless than it now is, I got dressed up for the occasion. I put on a white outfit with sparkles and spangles and fringes on the sleeves, and of course the biggest hair I could afford up to that point. I had no idea what Sandy looked like. I wasn't sure he knew what to expect from me. The time came for him to pick me up, and I walked across the lobby to the front door of the hotel. I must have looked like a Cadillac some hillbilly had fixed up with mud flaps and spinners and pent wheels. In my mind, I was dressed to kill, or at least seriously injure. That self-image was defeated a little when I noticed a man sitting in a Mercedes convertible, laughing hysterically. "Are you Sandy?" I asked halfway, hoping he wasn't. He nodded and said, "You've got to be Dolly." "I guess if one of us has to be, it might as well be me," I said as I got into the car. Sandy was dressed very casually in corduroy pants and penny loafers that were his trademark at the time. There we were, him as L.A. as a person could get, and me twice as Nashville as the neon sign at Twitty City. In spite of that, we hit it off like magic. He called me White Diamond because he said that was what I looked like. I suspect if he had been truthful, he would have gone ahead and called me Cubic Zirconium. When we got to Sandy's house, he loaned me a pair of his pants and a shirt, which I wore the rest of the night, and took back to the hotel with me. I still have them as a memento for our first meeting. No, I didn't leave my spangly outfit at his house. He would have enjoyed that too much. I started right in telling him that I wanted to be a star, a big star. I told him that with the right help, there was no end to what I could do. I knew that he managed big stars like Cher and Joan Rivers. I gave him my big sales pitch. "I'm going to be a superstar, and whoever helps me will also be rich and famous," I said, dead seriously. Sandy began laughing uncontrollably again. "Why in the hell are you laughing?" I demanded to know. "I'm serious." "I'm not laughing at you," said Sandy, still chuckling. "I'm laughing with you." I could see that there were tears in his eyes. He was laughing for joy at having found me. I instantly felt as if all my life I had been waiting for Sandy. In that one moment, I realized I had found someone who understood me completely. That made me want to cry. Once the door had been opened, we went on talking and planning and dreaming all night. I proceeded to tell him that I didn't think he should try to change me too much. I thought I should keep my hair the way it was and so on. I thought I should grow at a rate I was comfortable with and only do the things I felt confident doing. That rapport has continued to this day with Sandy. I can be totally myself with him. We are both high-energy people and both very spiritual. Me in my way and Sandy in his. We both love a challenge. Sometimes a project will seem like too much to hope for even to us. We'll look at each other, and if Sandy notices a hint of doubt in my face, he'll say, "Well, they can kill us, but they won't eat us." Sandy set to work right away to clean up that mess in Nashville. All that legal stuff with Porter and the lawsuit. At the time, he was partners with Ray Katz and Dan Cleary. The firm did a terrific job of freeing me from all the ugliness. Next, Sandy started to work with RCA Records to make the big Dolly crossover. He found the songs Here You Come Again through Charles Koppelman. Sandy was determined that it should be my first crossover release. I resisted it, saying, I don't want to scare my audience to death. I want to put out Two Doors Down first. Sandy said, we'll do it later. This is the first song that's going to be a giant hit. One second. Okay, we can do this. Okay, this is a longer chapter, but bear with me. Trust me, we'll get through it in this hour that Instagram gives us. Okay. I trusted him. I'm very glad. He was right about all of it. Here You Come Again was a big hit, my first million seller. I will always be indebted to Sandy for his vision, as well as to Barry Mann and Cynthia Well for such a great song. Gary Klein did a first-class job of producing the record, and the Scotti brothers did an equally top-notch job promoting it. I had a big hit. I thank God, my lucky stars, and the wonderful people I had to work with. I had a lot of trouble dealing with the resistance to my crossover from the old-timers in Nashville. To me, it was simple arithmetic. Jolene had been a #1 song in the country market and had only sold 60,000 records. A hit on the pop charts could sell millions. I'm not saying that it was all about money. To me, it was all about building a bigger audience. I would hear some of the old-timers complain that I was leaving my country music. I would always reply, I'm not leaving it, I'm taking it with me to new places. Abraham Lincoln was great, not because he was born in a cabin, but because he got out of it. There's always resistance to change. If you're joining this change in live reading today, we are reading the Dolly Parton, My Life, an Unfinished Biography. We're in chapter 11. There's always a resistance to change. For a long time, there were drums. I wonder who is mowing their lawn. They are so close. It's not our neighbor. He's not mowing it today. He might join us later, though. Okay. You'll know if he's mowing his lawn. He mows it with a weed whacker. Sorry, I know you're not supposed to touch your eye, but I got something in it. 1 second. Okay, we're back to reading Dolly. I got it out of my eye, whatever it was. Might have been a wig hair. For a long time, drums were not allowed on stage at the Grand Ole Opry. Before that, it was electric guitars. And before that, it was black people or women or anything or anybody else that somebody thought was a threat to tradition. And if you remember, if you weren't here a few whiles back when Dolly sang on the Grand Ole Opry, I knew a little fact that the Pointer Sisters, I want to say it was in the late 70s, the Pointer Sisters musical group were the first African Americans to ever perform on the Grand Ole Opry stage. Just a little sidebar fact for you. It's pretty cool. Good to know. That way, if you were doing some trivia, you might have that answer. Okay, back to it. I love to hear Bill Monroe sing Mule Skinner Blues as much as anybody, but I also love to hear Garth Brooks or Alan Jackson or Trisha Yearwood. Change is not always bad, nor is it always good, but one thing is certain, change is inevitable. When Here You Come Again was a big hit with country audiences too. I felt completely vindicated. Not only had I proved I was right about the arithmetic, I helped to make a whole segment of society change the way they thought about country music and country singers. Now Nashville began to respond a little differently to me. When I was nominated by the CMA as an Entertainer of the Year, it was a sure sign that Nashville had finally gotten over my crossover. We were just asked how many chapters are left in the book, and I'm going back. There are a total of 16 chapters. I thought it was 18, but there's 16. 16 chapters, and don't worry, I've already figured out the next book reading because, again, we don't know how long this stay-at-home orders or quarantines are really going to go because none of our governments can seem to figure it out and work together. But not here to be political. Just I have my opinions. Okay. So 16. We have 16 chapters and we're in chapter 11. So after this, we'll have 5 left. So that's 5 every other day. If you're just joining us, that question was asked how many more chapters are left in Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. I've been reading this biography the last few weeks. So right back to it. So she was nominated by the CMAs as Entertainer of the Year. It was a sure sign that Nashville had gotten my crossover. These days, of course, country music is the most successful part of the recording industry. Hopefully, in some way, I can take credit for some of that change. Like I said, change is not always bad and not always good. The nationalization of country music and the top 40 kind of thinking that goes with it have made it hard for an over 40 hillbilly to get radio airplay anymore. Hey, DJs, I'm forever 39, so please play my records. As Sandy Gallen took over the reins of my career, I began to grow, by necessity, as a performer and a businesswoman. One of the first ventures was Dolly, my syndicated television show produced out of Nashville by a man named Bill Graham. He loved show business and he admired my spunk. He had big plans. Where is that weed whacking coming from? Goodness gracious. Oh my God, it is our neighbor. He weed whacks his mow. Oh God, it's okay. This is great. It's so entertaining. It's like torture. Why would you weed whack mow your lawn? And it's electric. It's not even a gas powered one. And he has to stop and charge it every few minutes. Oh, Jana, you're right. I'm not saying anything though. I can't. So I'm gonna have to get a little bit louder. I think they do it when I start reading though. It's actually really funny. Where was I? Okay, we're going back to it. That, just so y'all know, Jamie and Jana, those are our neighbors downstairs, so they know the pain we have. Okay, right back to it. But it's louder. It's like he got a new one this week. Oh, it's getting quieter. I gotta be quiet. Okay, going back to the reading. Okay. I hope y'all don't hate these sidebar comments, because it does make this book reading more entertaining. He loved showbiz. Going back to it. A guy named Bill Graham did her producing of her show, Dolly. He really did, Jana. He really did. He loved show business, and he admired my spunk. He had big plans to do big-time television version with me. He was a wonderful man with the best of intentions. But the difference between the kind of show he wanted to do and the kind that could actually be produced in Nashville. Can y'all hear me? Just wanted to make sure. Can y'all hear me? Give me thumbs up. Thumbs up. There's a delay, so I have to wait a second. Just want to make sure. Oh. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can. Okay, I got some hearts, so that must mean you can. Okay. Oh, we got some. Okay, good. I got to get louder than that as a weed whacker. Okay. But the difference between the kind of show he wanted to do and the kind that could actually be produced in Nashville at the time sometimes made for funny situations. I used to open the show on a swing with ivy and flowers twined around the ropes. Me and my big hair and flashy clothes and the too cute scenery gave the whole thing the look of a cartoon. I had some really odd guests. Dog acts, monkeys, Captain Kangaroo. Not exactly the perfect chemistry for my personality. I did manage to do one show, however, that I will always be proud of. It is probably the best half hour of television I ever did. My guests were Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt. Phenomenal singers, in my opinion. The three of us really got comfortable with just us, our voices and guitars. The result was some of the most unspoiled, pure country music I have ever been a part of. It was a forerunner of our trio album. Something else I will always be proud of. Kenny Rogers was also a guest on that early show. That began the chemistry that would make such a hit with the public in our future projects together. Oh, God bless Kenny. Passed away recently. I'm just going to adjust my seat. Okay. There was something about the combination that just worked. I think it was because Kenny has a kind of cool energy that is perfect complement to my hot energy. Whatever it was, people just instantly began to think of us as a couple. Islands in the Stream was our first duet, and it was a huge crossover. We never really worked that much together, but for a long time people insisted on thinking of us as a duo. I would be out on a tour by myself and people would yell, "Where's Kenny?" The same would happen to him, although obviously they would yell, "Where's Dolly?" Even now, when I'm in a Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where Dollywood is located, I sometimes see a couple that impersonates Kenny and me. I guess that goes to show how people still think of us, sort of like Mickey and Minnie, and I don't mean Mickey Gailey and Minnie Pearl. I still work with Kenny from time to time, and the chemistry is still there. As a reminder, this book came out in the 90s when it was written. So, my little TV show didn't last very long, but I did it long enough to know that TV was something I wanted to do. I know I will do it successfully one day yet. The way that Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, and I have blended so beautifully on that little local show made it seem obvious to me that the three of us should do an album together. We all thought so, and tried to coordinate everything to do just that. Several years before the trio album actually happened. But it didn't work out at the time. One thing good, one very special person who came into my life through that attempt, though, was Bob Hunka. He was working with Emmylou at the time and was an old friend of her husband, Brian Ahern. Bob, like Brian, is from Canada, and he is one of the classiest men I have ever known. Bob is a world-class chef, a connoisseur, a collector of fine wines and fine art. He loves the theater, good books, candlelight dinners, and brilliant conversations. You would think the two of us would be like oil and water, and that those two things don't mix. Well, somehow we made the damnedest batch of watered-down oil you ever saw. We just took to each other. We had the very same views on God, religion, and life. Odd as it may seem, we were soulmates, not lovers, but just warm, wonderful friends. Some of the most rewarding spiritual journeys I have ever been on were taken with Bob. One of the strangest I took with Bob as well. Bob had a girlfriend, a beautiful actress from Texas named Franny Parrish. He had explained to her at the start that his very best friend just happened to be a woman. She did her best to accept that, and I did my best to make her comfortable with it. There was one time, though, when I pushed my luck. Bob told me that he and Franny were getting married. While I was happy for them, I desperately wanted one last trip with Bob. I had always wanted to see Paris, and so had Bob. I decided I would take him to Europe for 2 weeks in April as a wedding present. Well, there were Carl and Bob's fiancés, waving goodbye as Bob and I took off on an incredibly romantic adventure. Carl would never do anything like that with me. He's not into candlelit dinners and fine wine. He's not about to eat anything he can't see. And he doesn't drink at all. He wouldn't deprive me of it, though. He'd rather that I be with a man because he feels like I'm more protected and from a safety standpoint than I would be with another woman. Whatever baggage Bob and I took with us, guilt was not part of it. We had the best time two people could have had. We spent time at the Great Churchill Hotel in London, with a limousine at our beck and call. We took trains to the country. We saw Stonehenge and had a fantastically spiritual picnic there. The sights, the food, the companionship. It was the trip of a lifetime. One night we went to the Grand Opera. I mean to tell you, it was grand. The opera house, those highfalutin people and all their finery. It was almost overwhelming to me. I know Bob must have been a little embarrassed to take me there in my gaudy, tasteless outfit. But if he was, he didn't say anything. It was Grand Opera meets the Grand Ole Opry. I don't remember what the opera was. I do remember that I had quite a snootful of best red wine I have ever tasted during our fabulous dinner before the show. That huge curtain went up and those people came out and began singing in those big dramatic voices in what referred to me as strange tongues. For some reason it struck me funny. I started in snickering, just a little at first, but enough to be heard by the people around us. It was like being in school and having something strike you funny. No matter what you do, there's no way you can stop. I decided I'd better go to the bathroom and snickered my way like a hillbilly fool all the way up the aisle. I finally got to the stall and just fell on the floor laughing. I was having a good time and enjoying the opera in my own way. Bob found me at halftime and we left. We rode around for a while, went to another fine restaurant for dessert, and laughed ourselves numb. Then we went to bed, not together. I'm sure we could have slept together and nothing would have happened, though. That has happened with me many times. Friends are friends to me, male or female. If you're gonna screw, you're gonna screw. You're going to find your time to do what you have to do. Every time I think of that story, it makes me laugh. I never said I was cultured. You know, money didn't make you smart. Money didn't make you happy, but it can make you comfortable if you're smart enough to be happy. That's as happy as I need to be. I guess what I'm saying is that if you feel like I'm having a good time, laugh. Have at it at any cost. A merry heart doeth good like medicine. The Bible says, don't ever miss a chance to have fun. Life's too serious. Most of the time, I just find the humor and laugh at yourself mostly. Sandy Galen and I decided it would be fun to do a big Las Vegas show. Sandy was a genius at negotiating a deal. At the time, it was the biggest deal in Las Vegas history. It called for 2 shows a night for 2 weeks at the Riviera for a multi-million-dollar figure. The deal was big, and that was a good thing. The show was big, and that was a disaster. Although I look like a drag queen's Christmas tree on the outside, I am at heart a simple country woman. I am at my best in simple situations where my true personality can flow naturally. This show was an extravaganza with big, flashy sets and costumes. I felt as out of place as Gomer Pyle at Harvard. I think it's because my persona is oversized and flashy. That makes me kind of a fish out of the water in normal surroundings. But when I am surrounded by things that are just as flashy, I become a fish in water, and I tend to get lost in that shuffle. The ill-fitting show would have been bad enough without the personal problems I was having at the time. I was very unhappy with my weight. I was experiencing female problems. And I had trouble with my band, trouble with my family, trouble with my voice. I was taking cortisone for the vocal nodes that had continued to plague me. That tended to make me puffy and bitchy. On top of all of it, I had been betrayed by certain people very close to me. All of that together was just too much. I had always been a trooper who believed as strongly as anyone that the show must go on. But this situation got the best of me. I stopped the show and pulled out of Las Vegas. I did not go back for many years. When Elvis first played Las Vegas, he had an equally miserable experience that soured him on it for a long time. Years later, he returned in triumph. I also returned later and had a wonderful experience working for Steve Wynn, first at the Golden Nugget and later at the Mirage. One of the most glorious or gratifying things that had ever happened. Oh, we have some new viewers, I see. We are reading Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. Her biography from the 90's. Okay. One of the most gratifying things that has ever happened to me was the reception I got when I appeared in Europe, especially England. We did a special for HBO from the Old Dominion Theatre in London. At first, it looked as if the entire event would turn out to be a disaster. I knew that the British people had heard my songs on the radio and on records, but didn't really know what I looked like. I always thought of England as a very proper and conservative. I didn't know how they would react to the big, overblown, over-sequined cartoon of a woman who was about to stand before them. I wasn't even sure a crowd would show up, but to my surprise, the place was packed. I was also amazed at the wide diversity of people who came to see me. The boxes were filled with royalty in fine gowns and evening wear. I was a little surprised that nobody ever said, "I say, isn't that the hillbilly who laughed at the opera?" In the cheap seats were teenage punks with lime green hair and safety pins through their noses. By punks, I don't mean to put the kids down. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. This is just the wig for today. Excuse me, Banks. Just kidding. Those of you that are now joining, we're reading Dolly. Continuing on. She's now doing an HBO special in England. We are big into her career in this chapter. So by punks, I don't mean to put the kids down. This was a time when the punk movement was at its height, or depth depending on how you felt about it. I couldn't believe that the kids who were into Sid Vicious could want to hear a country singer from East Tennessee. I began to wonder if they had come to heckle me or perhaps try to dispute the show in some way. The next thing that happened looked as if it would kill the entire project. A bomb threat was phoned into Scotland Yard. Well, Everybody was forced to evacuate the building, including me and my entourage and television crew. Sandy and I sat in a tea shop across the street and wondered, what the hell have we done this time? But before long, a polite English policeman came to announce, the unpleasantness is over, and you may return to the theater. We went back in, fully expecting to be the only ones there. To our delight and surprise, the entire audience had returned. They had all waited outside until the bomb squad and its dogs had done their search, and then filed back in as if nothing had happened. When the show finally began, I was barely able to sing because of the lump in my throat. These people didn't just accept me and my songs. They embraced both of us with warm, open hearts. When I sang Coat of Many Colors, I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, in the eyes of my audience members. That's what's more, I could see tears in the eyes of the punks in the front rows. What was it that touched them and me so much? After thinking about it, it made perfect sense. My songs and the old mountain songs that they were influenced by came directly from the English, Irish, and Scottish folk songs of old. A paraphrase like, come all ye fair and tender maidens, rolls as easily off the tongue of an ironworker in Liverpool pub as it does off that of a sharecropper in the Smokies. A bow being pulled across the strings of an Appalachian fiddle makes the same kind of goodness gracious, ball-full moan as bagpipes wafting through the highlands. Our roots and the deepest parts of our very souls are tied to the music. Even the young kids who would have outwardly scoffed at the music of their ancestors could not help responding to it inside. There might be a safety pin in their nose, but they're a hillbilly in heart. Sandy had always said he wanted to broaden my appeal. He booked me on The Tonight Show on my birthday in 1977. That was when I first became aware of the big power of big-time television, and what it could do for a person's career. It doesn't hurt your record sales any either. Johnny got a huge laugh when he pretended to be fixated on my bosoms for a while and finally said, I'd give a week's pay to look under that shirt. I always had a great relationship with Johnny Carson, although I never saw him except on the panel during the show. It became something of a tradition. He would always come to my dressing room and knock at the door before the show, but I would never come out. After a while, he knew I wasn't coming out, but he played along with the custom as if we were a bride and groom before a wedding. When we were on the set, we always talked and laughed and had a great time. People would think we had been friends forever, and in our own special way, we have been. I never did The Tonight Show with any other host until after Johnny had left. I had a similar relationship with David Letterman. I have never seen him off the set either. We talked during the commercials and whatever, but I think the fact that we don't see each other anywhere else makes my conversation more real and interesting. I communicate with David in a special way because something about his demeanor, the way he acts and reacts, reminds me of Carl, and Carl is her husband if you're just joining us. When I decided to do my first Barbara Walters special, a lot of people warned, oh, you're crazy to do that. She'll chew you up and spit you out. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Barbara is a very insightful person. Once she realized I was real, that my insides weren't as phony as my outsides, she got completely into it. I even had her singing a little bit at one point. I'll bet that surprised her more than anybody. She took the TV audience on a tour of my customized Dolly bus and showed everybody my wigs and shoes and all the trappings of being me. Before that special, I think a lot of people were curious about me, but didn't quite know what to think. Just like Barbara, they found out I was real and took me into their hearts. That special did incredible things for me, and I have gone back to do others. Barbara and I have always had a mutual respect and admiration. I'm sure that will continue. I told Barbara during the first special that I wanted to be a superstar. I'm sure a lot of people thought I was full of it. I think Barbara was even humoring me a little bit. But when I look back at it, everything that I had told her came true. I never doubted any of it myself, from the time I was a dreamy little kid. I guess that is the definition of faith. When I was in the 3rd grade, the Gideons came to our school. There were two men, but I don't remember anything about one of them because I spent all of my time staring at the other. He was a little wiry little man in a blue seersucker suit. He reminded me of an insect we used to call a walking stick. What fascinated me so much, though, was that his hair was snow white, his skin was pink, and so were his eyes. He had Coke bottle glasses that magnified them as they darted about the room like frantic pink searchlights. I know now that the man was an albino, and it wasn't right for me to stare, but then I was just a curious kid who couldn't help it. The thing I will never forget was the talk he gave about faith. When the forgettable man handed me little red leatherette-bound New Testament searchlight passed out on keychains, they were not just any keychains. Each one had a little plastic ball on the end with a single mustard seed inside. The plastic glow magnified it, much like the odd man's eyes. If you look closely, you could read a Bible verse on a shred of paper next to the mustard seed. It said, "If ye have faith, even as much as a single mustard seed, ye shall be able to move mountains." I took that to heart. In my particular case, it might have said, "Ye shall move the mountains," or "Ye shall move from the mountains," or even, "Ye shall grow mountains and parlay them into a huge career." Even at that age, I could tell that the walking stick man had faith. He spoke with such conviction. I know it took courage for him to go to schools every day, knowing the kids would probably stare. If this unusual man could have both courage and faith, why couldn't I? He told a story about a man who had read that same verse from the mustard seed keychain. The man decided to put it to the test. He is still weed whacking that goddamn lawn. It is the funniest thing. Just get a mower already. It would be done faster. He told, at least he hasn't had to plug it in because the battery died, which that does happen. We're almost done, I promise. We're on the last page. Last paragraph. It's sad. We're going to be ending today. We'll go back to it. Okay. So that man who also had that courage and faith, he could tell a story about a man who had read the same verse from the mustard seed keychain. The man decided to put it to the test. He stayed up all night praying that the mountain to the east of his house would be in the west. When we went out the next morning, when he looked out, he saw the mountain still in the same place, and he said, "See there, I knew it." That is the case of faith, working in the negative. I knew my dreams would come true. He knew his wouldn't. And that, as they say, has made all the difference. That concludes chapter 11. I see we had a few joiners at the very, very end. You joined us at the last sentence of Dolly, my life, and other unfinished business. I'm going to turn it around so it's not backward. I don't know what's going on. Okay, there it goes. Yeah, so that's what we've been reading. Join us again. We do it every other day. Saturday, that will be Monday, 10 a.m. Hawaii time. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And that's it. We are going to conclude it. Oh, let me see if there's any quick pictures that we need to show from today. Oh, here's a picture of Chet Atkins. We talked about him. Dolly and him. They're good friends, playing jokes on each other. That's a picture of Dolly Parton and her early awards. Look at that young Dolly. Oh, I should back up. Let's see what else. Oh, I have fun doing this too. Bryce took Willow to the beach for a little exercise, so she couldn't join us today, but I sure have fun doing this with y'all. Let's see. I don't think there are any other pictures. Huh. I don't want to show too many. Oh, this is a picture of Dolly right now as she's writing the book. Well, not right now, but like right now as if she's writing the book outside of a little chapel. That must be where she got the most of her writing done. Okay, so we'll start this back up on Monday. We'll read chapter 12, and we'll go from there. Hope y'all have a great weekend. And it wasn't Willow, but Jennifer came to say hello. Oh, don't look at her litter box. See ya. Oh, there we go.